Hello, it's Henry again here. If you watched my video from the summer of 2021 where I did a 2-day backpacking trip with my friend, you'll notice that I had a lot of trouble with the weight on the trail. Now, historically, I've been able to carry 50 pounds for 20 kilometers over rough ground and call it fun. As I get older, it wasn't so much that I couldn't do it, it was more a matter of the amount of pain this caused me around my waist and my shoulders and my neck and all the rest that really made the whole trip far less fun. Now, I suppose this is due to getting older. I have no idea. I try to walk when I train with at least 20 or 30 pounds on my back. So I was kind of surprised that I had as much trouble with the weight as I did. When you see hiking videos, a lot of people talk about how weight is your enemy and all the rest, and but at the same time, a lot of these folks that go really light have some pretty sketchy systems that if weather is really bad or something else happens, or even the bugs, it stops being fun. And so it's that old compromise between the weight and what comforts you're prepared to set aside and which ones you think you really need. As I said in my video from 2 years ago, I figured I needed to get my weight down to a maximum of about 35 pounds. That would then go down by 3 or 4 pounds a day as I ate my food. Now, I think my base weight with this new system is in the neighborhood of 26 pounds or something. So if I'm eating 3 or 4 pounds a day, it's a 3 to 4 day maximum. And I think that's enough for what I want to do with my backpacking experience. However, I'd like to spend this video showing you different things I've done to cut the weight that I carried in the 55, 56 pounds down to below 30, not counting food. And because my food's basically the same. So that wasn't a place where I took things off. So I'd like to go through the different things, and there's a number of them here. You can look at the bookmarks if you want to move to a certain one. I will put them in. And every pound matters because it adds up. If you have 8 or 10 different categories and you lose a pound on each one, you've got 10 pounds. So we have. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was binoculars and things like that. So this pair, no one's going to be carrying around a set of 7x50s that weigh 2 or 3 pounds. But these type of compact binocular that you see, very common, a bird watching type binocular, is very common. They're not crazy expensive. They work pretty well. 10 by 24s or something like that. But they weigh a little bit. And I wanted ones that were waterproof but then I realized that in the vast majority of cases, especially when you're backpacking, short of an overlook, you're really not using your binoculars a great deal, and you're not using them for safety. So I decided to move to a monocular. And I think this one cost me 20 bucks, so I didn't sell the farm to buy it. It's a 10X, and it works really well. I can use it to see across like off of a cliff if on a view. It helped me decide where I want to take images of. I can see if there could be an animal here or there, and then use my camera to pick it up. This is also wonderful on canoe trips for looking for portages. And it's a third of the weight of this. So you've got, is really worth it. The other thing that we want to watch a little bit is the bulk. So having smaller things. Now I'm one of those who likes to hang things on my chest strap so I don't have to dig them out all the time when I want something, especially something like this. And this came conveniently with a nice little carry package and a very robust strap holder here. So the binoculars, I think that was one thing I was able to do. When you go to pretty places, it's only reasonable you're going to want to take images and video and so forth, regardless of whether you're interested in YouTube. Once again, though, you may well have spent some money on, you know, large lenses and a DSLR and all the things that this does. and that's nice. The problem, of course, again, is the weight you're carrying, and these things are fairly heavy, even if they're the plastic version. So I played around with that, and I ultimately found this isn't the actual camera. The one that I really use is the one that's making this video. But using a point-and-shoot camera that has an exceptional optic zoom, in the case of my camera, 30 times, and AI smoothing to get it to 60 that you wouldn't know was digital, plus the other features, and 13.5 megapixels is a wonderful compromise. And that's what I've decided to do, especially for backpacking trips, is that the bulk and weight of this. The other thing, when you get such an excellent zoom lens, it's a de facto 840 millimeter lens. This is a 300 millimeter lens. To get a 6 is well over $1,000, and you know, it's again a compromise. Sure, you want HD this and, you know, 4K and studio sound, and there's always the balance of what you can afford to carry. I feel that this camera has done a pretty good job given the trade-offs that I'm working on. I also carry a, depending on the length of the trip, a 20,000 milliamp hour battery. If it's a shorter trip, maybe a 10. But nevertheless, to charge the camera every day if I need it for my work. So here's another one where you can make a big change. There are excellent point-and-shoot cameras on the market today. You just simply have to go look for them and find ones that have all the things that you're looking for this. And one of the things that I certainly recommend is a terrific, as high as you can get, optical zoom lens on the camera, and then as many pixels as you can get, those types of things, and then try to get it so the whole thing is chargeable through the USB so that you can run it on an auxiliary battery if you want to do so. When it comes to drinking the water, it's not realistic to carry 3 or 4 liters a day with you for cooking and your own consumption. So therefore we're going to have to drink out of the lakes and the rivers that are in the parks that we are traveling through. However, of course, we know that the animals relieve themselves in these water courses, and the parasites that are there can well, even in the clearest water, give us trouble. So you can treat the water with chemicals, some kind of bleach, which makes the water taste like that. You can boil it for 20 minutes and use all the fuel that requires, and the water also tastes kind of bland. Or you can filter it. And most of us generally choose the filter option. For years, a filter of this type was commonplace. They originally, the ones I had were called Pure filters, PUR, and then later that was acquired by Katahdin. And so you put one of these in your water bottle, the other one in the lake, and then off you went. And it took a couple of minutes to fill your water bottle, and it worked out pretty well. However, just like everything else in this discussion, there's a weight penalty for such an elaborate filter. I also found that these filters didn't really remove a lot of the, let's say, fishy taste, if you will, of the water. I happened upon this new, for me at least, idea, which is called a Be-Free water filter. So you take this bag and fill it up to 3 liters. This is also made by the same company, by the way. And then you screw this filter on the end. So, hang this from somewhere. You don't squish it, just hang it. Let gravity do its work. You open the cap on the end, and if you set it up right, this can dribble into your pan or your water bottle or whatever it is. Now the thing that's cool about this, in addition, is it works pretty well. It weighs 1/4 pound when it's empty. And the other thing it could be there's some charcoal in it, I don't know what, but I find the water that came out of it tastes like the water at home. So there's a significant weight difference here without really any kind of a loss of performance, and arguably an increase in one. Hello, I'd like to take this moment to ask you to subscribe to my channel, Hiking with Henry, and to give this video a like if you're enjoying my work. It would help me to reach more people with the search algorithms, and I would appreciate it very much. Thank you. When you lower the amount of weight, and you also control then, say using the Bear Vault, you know, the amount of extra containers you need and so forth, and can make things kind of tighter, you no longer need is packed with the same amount of volume. So this was my Gregory pack that I bought. It's 103 liters. It's a really nice pack. It's extremely well built. I really like that. However, I bought the extra long one, and this back panel here is not really very adjustable. You can move things a little bit, but the length factor is a problem. And what I was finding is that when I cinched this around my hips, this was causing a lot of pain. And I had to do that in some respects because, once again, the pack was so heavy. It was 55 pounds or whatever. And then balancing it with these guys, and like I said, after about 6 or so kilometers, it stopped being fun. But this pack is over 7 pounds, and understandably so, given the amount of capacity that it has. So then I decided that if I made it smaller, I wouldn't need as big a pack. And so I happened upon this McKinley. Now my head says it's 70, but I think it's 65 plus 10. So most of the time we're not using the 10. So this guy is this 4 pounds, and as you can see here, hopefully, the top piece slides up and down, so you can adjust it. And I found raising the by moving this down, this effectively raises this on my body, and I'm able to snap it tight above my hips a little bit, and I find that the pain has been reduced. So this has been a real winner for me, and given the different technologies I've used, everything now is inside the pack, other than the few things on my chest strap and the bear spray that usually goes into one of the side pockets. This thing is completely internalized. It also comes with its own rain. It has a rain somewhere here, red thing that comes out, and it covers the entire pack. And since everything's inside, you protect your stuff when it pours. So really, this one, the big one, $400. This is all Canadian. This one here on sale for $99, and has worked just great. So there's an interesting comparison too. So again, when you save weight on all the other bits and pieces and make your stuff more compact, then you can also save on the pack as well. So when it comes to cookware, again, we can make some changes depending on what privations we're also willing to accept and what our diet is. So I found these folding plastic plates, and I love them because they're wafer thin, and you can stuff them and slide them in anywhere. So, but at the same time with these domes, so this is the cup, I think it is. So you just do this, for example. And you have a bowl or yeah, this is the bowl, I guess. So you can do that, and it's waterproof. And when you open it up, you can easily clean in between the folds. So this is a place where you could make certain things. I'd be a little cautious about how much heat I'd put on it, from the standpoint of boiling water or whatever. But nevertheless, it's pretty nice. And the plate can be flat like this, or you can dome it as well and make it into a more contained plate. Now, the nice thing about this is that even if this is similar in weight to, say, a plastic plate, the plastic plates often have ribs on them and are hard to store, and if they get squished, they'll break. This one here is very bendable, and I think these things are wonderful. And they weigh practically nothing, which of course is the whole point of this video. The other thing with cookware is the type of mess kit you use, and then in addition to that, realizing that you don't have to take your entire mess kit. Now, I had for years this tried and true, world famous stainless steel cook set. It's wonderful. It works really well. It's got really nice handles on it. You've got 2 nested pots and a frying pan, drinking cups, and all the rest. It's what you want. But it weighs a bit. Weighs more than a pound, I think. And so part of this, of course, is what do you take with you? So in my case, when I'm heating things, I'm generally heating hot water for oatmeal in the morning, and I'm generally heating hot water for soup at dinner. Those are my primary heating adventures. And so I need something to put the oatmeal in, something to heat the hot water over the fire that can take that. And sometimes I have sausages for dinner or something like that on the first day. And so generally speaking, the secret for me then has been to take the skillet and then one of these for the other. Okay, I'd probably use to take the large one, something like that. And maybe one of these for drinking, and leave these items back. I don't need the lid generally. Okay. So that's certainly a technique you can use to cut your weight more or less in half. But someone gave me this set here, which is made of titanium. So it's noticeably lighter. Now it's a little smaller, but generally the amount of water that you use for oatmeal is actually fairly small anyway. And then I have a rubber bowl, which I don't use, and a small spork. And then I have this bowl, and this bowl is the one I'm going to use for soup. I'm going to use it for for oatmeal and so forth. It'll sit on the stove, and it's certainly suited. Now, when I compare these two, then I might take one of these cups. So let's take this one and put it in here. So now we compare these two. Oops. This is double the weight, maybe even more than this is, and it's the same function. So those are things that you can try. And of course, every few years we get new technologies and all the rest. The main thing when you're doing something like this, if you're going to try something new, please try it at home before you go in the woods. That's a lot of times we don't want to spend the time checking and preparing, and I've done that too. And then we get out there and then our meal or whatever doesn't work as well. And when you're hiking especially, and certainly even canoe tripping, you really depend on your sustenance to keep you going, and if nothing else, to make it fun. So you want to make sure everything works the way it's supposed to. So one of the more ridiculous things I had to change was the use of this mattress. This is a Dreamtime mattress by Thermarest. It's fantastic. It is got a 2-inch thick Thermarest with a memory foam on top, and then there's a napping type material. You can sleep right on top of this. This is a beautiful air mattress. I bought it extra long and extra wide. I'm 6'3" and big enough, and this really helped. I found sleeping on just this 1-inch Thermarest, I just couldn't take the pain anymore in my hips and my shoulders and all the rest of it. Whether it's because I'm heavy or getting older, who knows just what. But and again, if you don't sleep very well, it stops being fun. However, this was certainly one of my biggest problems when it came to reducing weight. This thing weighs almost 8 pounds. It's very awkward. There's no way you're putting it inside the pack. You might get it in a canoe pack, but you're not getting it in a backpack. And so this was one of the things that I really felt I had to work on. After a certain amount of looking around, I happened upon this one. This is called a Nemo Tensor. Now it weighs just about a pound, just a little more I think. And this has gone away from the closed cell foam to just a straight air mattress with hopefully a sufficiently tough material that you don't have leaks happening too often. It blows up very nicely. There's a bag that you can fill with air and then just roll it up, and it takes 3 or 4 of those and you're filled up, so it's not bad. And you don't want the thing super full anyway. I would say the thickness of it is very, very similar to the Dreamtime. What's also nice is I like to use my sleeping bag as a blanket more than as a bag. And so as a consequence, I found that then I'd be lying right on the Thermarest type thing, and the nylon surface and so forth became clammy and uncomfortable. And so I was always challenged by that, as until, you know, covering it up somehow or whatever, and never really quite figured it out until I had the Dreamtime, which was terrific. However, this one is a different material. I'm not sure what it is, but on the trip last June to Kiosk, you may have seen on my channel, I used this for the first time, and I found I could lie on the mattress for the most part, even with bare skin, and not feel any difficulty. So I was just absolutely thrilled that I've got something that's so much more compact, just as comfortable, and now I have this ability to lie on it. So I only have to do is just bring my sleeping bag for comfort purposes. This is a total win, and saved almost 6 pounds right by itself. And this is another example of the compactness thing. So this thing is now stored in my pack and protected by rain and all the rest, versus the larger one, not necessarily so. And with the foam and the wicking, if you got into rain, trying to keep that dry just simply by covering garbage bags, I wouldn't bet the ranch on that. So I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. Another aspect, of course, is your shelter system. And I know there's people who use hammocks and people who use tarps and so forth. In Northern Ontario, which is where I'm probably going to be camping, the Bugs make tarps not realistic, in my view. The second thing is that I had a smaller tent, like a backpacking tent, for a number of years. But the problem was the entrance is at the end, so it was always difficult to come into the tent. Now there was the side loading tents and so forth, but I just never had gotten around to it until so when I bought my next tent after that one failed, I bought about a very good sized one. This is called a Camper 4. It's a 4-person tent, but with the large Thermarest and my gear, I could now spread out in this tent. I could dress in the tent without being crunched over. And so, for at least on the canoe trip, this seemed like a pretty good choice. But this weighs 9 pounds, and it's not a backpacking tent. So I then went looking, and again, with my size, I'm going to be looking at a 2-person tent just for me. I'm going to take up most of that space, and then maybe a little bit of space along the sides for my bits and pieces. I found this Spark 2.0 tent from Mountain Equipment, and this bag is great. It has all the different pieces. The support system, the pieces are it's all one, so you're not going to lose anything. You don't have two poles. It's just one big support, and it's really nice. I've loved this tent. I've used it certainly 10 nights. Trying to remember now exactly when I bought it, but certainly 5 or 6 nights anyway, and it's just been great from the beginning. So here's another example of saving 5 pounds and a significant amount of volume, so that when I have the blue pack, I can put in my canister with all my food in it, put this in it, put the bedroll in it, the sleeping bag goes underneath, and then all I have left is one net bag with some ditties, and then the pillow on top for compression and for insulation. And so packing the pack, it has become so much easier as well than it used to be.
So prior to using the Excel program, now this particular list is in Excel as well, but could be done in Word or even with a ruler and on a piece of graph paper. So what happens is I've broken down the items I have into general areas. So this is clothing, canoeing equipment, hiking equipment, imaging, food, information like books and so forth, maintenance, health and safety, recreation, shelter, sleeping, and all that. So then I had where to put everything. Now this is an older backpack, but basically you get the idea. So the idea here, I should point out one other thing. So you see these square brackets. So within these you put the amount that you think you need for a given trip. Now, because I found the gear changes so much, there's dynamic things that are going on, stuff breaks and all the rest of it, that I found that I couldn't make a definitive one because it would change so much. So I decided that I would make one that would be good for 5 trips. And so you put the date here in the top column in each of them, whichever column you're using. And then when you do the same thing, you put the stuff in the floor or the living room or whatever, and you make a pile, and then you go through it and see what you've really got. And go through each of these items now, and you're going to have to think about each one of them, whether they're need or must. So there's a little more discretion here. You check these off, and what I generally do is I had these three things. So C puts in the car box, so that would be something that's going to be in the trunk that I'm going to put on my person when I get there. So let's say a GPS hanging off the front of my chest strap or something. An item that isn't going, if it is going and I've packed it, I put a check mark. The hot list is something where I'm using it right now and I need to pack it at the last minute. And P would be on my person, something like my wallet or something, or keys or whatever. So you would do this, and then when you've got this entire section, such as clothing, for example, when you're satisfied with that, then you can check this bold box here, which says that this area is complete. And then often what I would do is draw, you can't draw lines through things or cross stuff off because you've got another 5 trips. Now you could print one for each trip, and that's up to you. But I found this worked reasonably well. And by the 5th trip, there had been things happen, stuff broke, stuff's gone, whatever, that maybe 10% of this would be different. And then I would take it out, whatever, and resort it and so on. And so that was a more flat-footed way to do this. It worked fine. The only mistake, in my view, is not having any system at all. Because I can remember going up trips and ending up just terrified all the way up of what I'd forgotten. And it stops being fun in a hurry. So whether you just use a piece of graph paper, you could use this exact system on a piece of graph paper, write it out with a pen, and you'd have your boxes here. And the only thing is when you've used it up, you'll have to recopy it or photocopy it or something. That would probably work too, until you really have to make some changes. And it's a cheap, reasonably decent way of doing things. Now, I'm not really putting this out there because everybody's got different gear. And it really has to be specific to how you camp, how you live, the gear you've got, and the gear you might get, and all that kind of thing. and it makes quite a difference. So this is my updated and fancier Excel spreadsheet that I really enjoy using, and it's I think this is the one I'm going to live with for a while. So in the general sense, we look at all the gear we take. We have camping gear, imaging equipment, cameras and so on, navigation, GPS maps, kitchen pots and pans, a water filter and all that, apparel, your clothing, and hygiene, toothpaste, and whatever. And those items add up to be gear. And then you have food. So those are the two primary categories. I also find when I go camping that I generally eat the same things every day to make it easier, less complicated, and it allows you to pack in bulk as well. And so the food then is broken down into breakfast, lunch, and then there's some, where it went here, say dinner here, okay, among other things. So the given meal for a day is over here, and this is breakfast is 800 grams, so is lunch, and dinner is these are basically a pound, and then dinner is almost 2 pounds. Now, of course, with breakfast, you're going to have water added to this, and you'll probably have a liter of Gatorade with it. So this is just the dry materials that you're carrying with you. Now, you can see here that we have 2 breakfasts, 3 lunches, and 2 dinners based on how this trip is going to be run. And so then you bring the appropriate things with you. And so that gives you then here in this summation the base weight, which you saw to the left. Let's just show you that again. So that's adding camping, imaging, navigation, kitchen, apparel, and hygiene, and you get 26.89. And then the food thing is 2 breakfasts, 3 lunches, and 2 dinners. And then these are added together to get the total pack weight when you leave your car. So when I did the trip in 2021, when I left the car, I was around 55, 56 pounds on my back. This is now 20 pounds lighter, and it's an extra day, 3 days versus 2 days. So there's a full extra 4 pounds on top of that. So this, if it was to be compared fairly, would be closer to 31 or 30 and a half pounds. So that's a 25 pound reduction, and that really is the secret to this. Now, clearly, if I wanted to go 4 days, I'm going to be slightly over my 35 pound line, but that's going to be only for the first day, and it's only slightly so, and it's the kind of thing we can put up with, perhaps. Now, over here, we list all the items that I have, and there's actually 181 of them, which is kind of scary. And you want to put the type of item first, so air mattress or backpack or whatever it's going to be, so that all your air mattresses will be in the same place when it's sorted alphabetically. If you do it by brand name, they'll be all over the place, and it's going to take you some time to find them, and you can easily make a mistake. So the different types that fit into things based on these categories up here are marked by these letters, and you can see their references are there. So when you enter an item, you have to choose one of those letters, and as best you can. And then also you have to put where it goes. Now, these namings here have to be very carefully typed. You can't leave any extra spaces. The capitalization has to be right, and so on, because this will help later on in the packing list. So you need to be mindful of where it goes. Now, there's a few items I don't count. When I look at a person who's going on a hike, their minimum equipment is going to be, their hiking boots, their socks, their underwear, their pants and shirt, and things like that. And those are not extra weight. You don't start off naked, if you will, in the forest. That's not a reasonable thing. So you're going to start off with normal every day. And then what's going to be on your back after that is really what we're talking about. So I don't count my boots, and I don't count trekking poles. That's about it, though. Everything else is on there. A lot of the items that are sold in Canada are sold in kilos, and the scales I have here are generally in kilos. So I weigh them first using a metric scale, and then I convert to imperial because I'm more comfortable with my judgment using the imperial system. So, so that is what that is. Then this shades based on the weight to mind makes you think about what you're doing there, and the grayed out ones here are because they have not been selected, so we're therefore emphasizing the items that are in black as the things that are actually going on the trip. Okay, and then you'll see some brown ones like this, or orange, whatever color you want to call it, and these are the food items, so they're separate because we have to repeat these from day to day to get that to work, and there's a rough estimate. Now this works really well, and I couldn't be happier with it. You can do a save as for a given trip or for a given number of nights or whatever you want to do, so you can copy it very easily without any real effort. The other thing that I built into this is the packing list. So we can go over here now, and again, you've chosen the location when you first entered those items as into where it's going to go. And then you will, of course, there's the number of items that are coming with it. This is also put into the other spreadsheet as well. And then this produces this list. So, like I said before, you take all the items you think you need to take with you, put them in the living room, on the floor in a pile, and then you slowly go through, verify it, make sure your stove lights, make sure your sleeping pad holds air, go through your tent, make sure you have all the pieces and all the rest, especially your first trip or two in the spring when things may have been moved around during the winter time. When you're satisfied with it, it goes in the pack in the right place, and that's when you check it off. And then when this list here is satisfied, then you're done and you can go on your trip. So hopefully this is the fancy version. Hopefully this can help you. I didn't post this on my in the details because everyone's situation's different as to what you want to carry, how you want to carry it, and to reformat this, I would rather not put you in a situation where there's some kind of a goof on the formatting and then that leads you to making a mistake. I just give you an example here on the packing list. For those of you who read Excel, you'll see that it reads from the 6th row to the 200th row on the main table of the names of items. So if we go over here, it's going to read from row 6 all the way to row 200. Let's get back there. And so right now there's no problem. But if I continue to add items without telling my wife and get to item 201, for example, it will not see that. And it'll just miss it, and that item would be left off the list if I wasn't paying attention. And so you have to be a little careful with this type of program or any kind of data program like this, that what you're getting out of it is not just close, but it's exact, because you need every item on these lists. Every item here is doing, 1 or 2 or 3 different things on the trip, and we can't be cavalier about it. But like I said in the previous, the only real mistake you can make in this is not having a list at all. That's really where the troubles are going to start. And yeah, hope this was interesting and useful to you.
So another item that I was able to reduce some weight was with my stove. For years I had used this standard, what is, I'm sure for many of you, archaic type Coleman stove. This is a naphtha stove, and you put naphtha gas in the container and then it's pressurized and it runs. And this thing worked great. It produced lots of heat. There was no problem. I had to store it in a box. In my pack they have containers for them, but they're really large. So the problem with this is weight. It weighs about 3 pounds because it's a beast of a container when it's full. Secondly, the bulk of it doesn't fold up or anything. So this was certainly something that I wanted to see what I could do about. Also, I find these stoves outgas a little bit, and you can get the naphtha smell into your pack sometimes, even with the best of efforts. So I came upon, there were different types of stoves, and some of them were quite expensive. I found this one just simply from Woods at Canadian Tire, so I didn't go buying a $200 one. So it comes all folded up, and so it's not really too bad to figure it out here. You don't have to have a I always find it takes initially just a second or two to get the legs which way they go. Oh yeah, there we go. So you move the first joint first, that's what it is. So this one, and there's 3 legs. So you just have to watch your valve. You want to make sure that doesn't get dirt in it. So you just have to play with it a little bit. So for long, you have it like so. And then there's 2 canisters. They typically, you think of these kind, but I don't really produce a lot of hot water, so I use the smaller ones, and they weigh less. This is about 220 grams when it's fully loaded. Let's see what it says on here, if it does even say it. Nevertheless, there's the empty container weighs about 99 grams, and then there's the fuel in here. So on the trip to Kiosk, I used it in morning for the oatmeal and at night for the soup. So that was 8 firings to raise some boiling water, and there was about 40% of the container left. Now, because I know what is in here, I can weigh this on a diet scale when I come home, and then I can put a piece of tape on it saying what's left in the can, and then recognize how many nights it has. So it might be that if I'm down to 40%, I might say, okay, well, if I'm doing a one-nighter or something, I'm going to take that one. And you get down near the end, you maybe just say, the heck with it. Now, I know some people use stick stoves and burn local wood. With the fire bans that are fairly common in Algonquin and in Northern Ontario in the summertime, you really can't bet the ranch on being able to use a stove of any kind, have a fire even for trash. And the last thing that any of us would ever want to do is be the source of a catastrophe. So I don't bother. I never have a campfire, and I don't need it, other than in the morning maybe at the end when we're leaving a site, we might have a trash fire where we burn the oatmeal packages and things like that. And this is so fast. And this comes with its own igniter on it here too. So there's a little thing you push and you can get the spark. So it works great. Now you always bring a lighter just in case, but still, and it's a bit noisy as these stoves are, but it's not that bad. And I like this way better than, it's self-contained, these don't leak, than using naphtha gas. So this is a win from the standpoint of weight. It's about half, even with the canister, it's about half the weight of a conventional naphtha stove. You don't get the odors. It packs way smaller. It's in 2 pieces, so you can put them here and there as well. So all of this, and a few other little things, all of this has allowed me now to reduce my pack weight, gross weight of somewhere around 55 pounds to 35. Now when we get down to a what I call a gear weight, which is the weight of the pack before you put any food in it, any consumables, I'm sitting at around 26 pounds right now, where when I went on the trip in 21 it was probably around 46. So my whole pack with food is now 10, maybe even 15 pounds lighter than it was on that trip. So, but at the same time, I'm not going super light down to 15 pounds and living on a shoestring, which I'm not prepared to do. I've found that carrying 25 to 35 pounds on training hikes has been no problem for me at all. It's been comfortable, and I'm able to manage it very well. So, yeah, hopefully some of this is helpful, and some of you might have your own ideas, and that's wonderful. It's always nice to have a discussion, and hopefully we'll see you down the trail. Thanks for watching.